What's good, everyone? So today I want to talk about two overrated cards. These two cards have been in the format for quite some time, and I know this is going to be a little controversial, but I want to preface this by saying I'm comparing it to the current format, which is the January 2020 ban list, where Spiral has taken over, and I just want to talk about these two cards. And I really just don't understand why these cards are so expensive and why people just, whenever they have these cards, they just throw them onto their decks without even thinking about it. So let's get on with Fantasma A. This card's actually really good. If we look at cards in a vacuum, this card is actually insane. But players should not be looking at cards just like that. You have to compare it to the format itself. And Fantasma right now, I believe, is abysmal. This card is really bad. Why is it really bad? Because what it like represents against Spiral. Against Spiral, when do you summon this card? And you summon it when they summon their first Link monster, which is going to be either double Helix or their Barricade board blocker to discard a card. And my issue with this card is, okay, I activate Fantasma. They already, by that point, have the planner in graveyard, and that is my issue with this card currently. So just think about this for a second. Cards like Droll and Lockbird, DD Crow, those are the cards that are gonna be, and Ash Blossom, those are the cards that are gonna be main decked game one. And if you main deck, and then if you main deck Fantastical Dragon Fantasma, you have a chance to draw into those cards. Okay. Now, if they already link summon, the planner is already resolving, and DD Crow and Ash Blossom and all these other cards are not going to be able to do anything because it's either chain blocked or they've already gotten the search, the thing that matters. They've already added Resort and a Spiral Monster to their hands. So what is Fantastical Dragon Fantasma actually doing? If I activate this card on the summon of Helix and the planner's already in graveyard, even if I draw Droll and Lockbird, DD Crow, they are significantly weaker now. So in previous formats, we've used Fantasma against like other combo decks to draw into cards when they have like 2-3 Link monsters, because you have a chance to still stop them. You had a chance in the previous formats to stop things like LP, Agripane. You could still do something, but after you resolve this card, the only cards that you could possibly draw that are good into the Spiral board are board breaking cards that are most likely in your side deck, such as Super Polymerization, Dark Ruler No More, Sphere Mode, all those cards. Now, if you're a going second deck, or if you main deck those cards, obviously it's going to be a little different, and I think Fantasma is going to be better if you were playing a going second deck, but that is the only time. In the main deck, I really do think this card is very lackluster. I know it just got a reprint and the price is going down, but the price should have been going down already. It is going to get significantly weaker in the new Master Rule because people are going to summon all sorts of different monsters without needing Link monsters. But even before that, right now, currently, it doesn't really offer you anything against Spiral. And what about the other decks? The decks that counter Spiral are all decks that are usually just back row decks like Altergeist, Subterror, things that also do not care about this card. So if you choose to main deck this card, I think it's a big mistake in this format, unless you are playing a going second deck such as Invoked. This card should not be used currently to like draw a hand trap like it was in previous formats. Like, people consider this a hand trap because it gave you a chance to draw other hand traps. But I think it's too late by the time you resolve this card for a hand trap to do anything. In some situations, the hand trap might do something, but DD Crow, Ash Blossom, Drone Lockbird, like those cards become so much weaker after they already put the planner into graveyard, and that's my biggest issue. So I don't understand why people just see this. I think people just see this card. It's an expensive card, and it's been in the format previously, so they just want to throw it into their decks. But guys, just think about what the current format is. Just because a card is expensive does not mean you have to throw it into your deck. I think this card is very lackluster currently against Spiral, and the decks that counter Spiral, you just can't even use this card in, so it's dead almost any situation. I think this card was crazy for the last year because also Sky Striker was so big, and this card was so freaking good against Sky Striker. But now Sky Striker is gone. This card really doesn't have that importance anymore. This card's kind of for going second decks or decks that really need to get a 6 card dig into their deck, so because they don't have enough starter cards. But right now, I really would not recommend playing this card. And then the next card I want to talk about, also very controversial, Infinite Impermanence. In the previous formats, this has been my favorite hand trap. Why is it my favorite hand trap? Because you cannot call by the Grave It. It's literally an effect veiler that you can I'll just go over the text. Target one face-up monster your opponent controls, negate its effects. Then if this card was set before the activation and is on the field at resolution for the rest of this turn, all other spell trap effects in this column are negated. So that's really cool too. And not only was it an effect veiler that can be activated at any time, including the battle phase or standby phase whenever you wanted, but it also had that neat effect of setting it to turn down a column. I really do like this card, but like I said, I want to compare it to what it is currently. Though I don't understand why the price on this card is around $40-50 for the secret rare. This card's very lackluster as well. Why is it very lackluster? Let's compare it to what it does against Spiral. Okay, so I don't know if you guys know this. I'm sure everybody knows this. The Spiral field spell, Resort, makes it so you cannot target any of their monsters. So this card immediately becomes so much weaker because they might just have Resort, which is a one of. So I don't think that's the best argument I'm going to give you guys, but just keep that in mind that their field spell just immediately turns this card off. But that's not a big thing. The big thing is every Spiral player starts their turn with the planner and linking it off. If they don't do that, then their hand is kind of subpar, and in that scenario where you can stop the double helix, yes, it's kind of good, but most of the time, now with Magician's Soul being a thing, they are starting with planner, and this card is actually just useless versus any of the Spiral monsters. Even if Resort isn't on the field, what are you actually negating? Or what are you going to negate? Are you going to negate Quick Fix? Negating Quick Fix is not a good play. I don't know why people also think like people always just shotgun their Ash, their effect veiler Impermanence on Quick Fix. Quick Fix just searches a card and they're going to summon it back anyway. Very, very minus to do that. What else are you going to stop? Are you going to stop Agent from popping a spell or trap? Okay, sure. That's terrible. Are you going to stop Tough from popping a card? Terrible. Are you going to stop the Master Planner from adding the continuous trapper spell to your hand? That's also terrible. And Master Planner can just come back and you can just keep triggering it. So almost against every spell monster, even if Resort isn't on the field, this card is just terrible. I don't understand. If you're main decking this card, please consider main decking something else like Droll and even Ash or DD Crow. This card just, I get it. I played it for so long. This card gets around Called by the Grave, which is very neat. But this card is very just average right now. I don't know why the price is so high. This card just needs a reprint. This card is not good. Do not main deck this card. And after they make their Helix and the planner goes to graveyard, they have Resort now. They could just activate Resort and that's it. Your Impermanence is dead. There's very niche circumstances where the Impermanence might do something, like you can save it to turn off Appaloosa on your turn, but I don't think that's that good. And it's just like the same, it's like the same what a Kaiju or a bunch of other cards can do. So I don't think it's even worth like investing into this card. I just think this card is very, very lackluster right now. But guys, just remember, I don't want you guys to take this out of context. In a vacuum, this is probably the best hand trap because you cannot like Call by the Graveyard. You could draw it as a 6 card and activate it. I am not saying these cards are bad. I've played these cards. These cards are really good. But currently in the January 2020 format, with Spirals being 50% and the other decks are just weaker decks trying to counter Spiral, I do not think Impermanence is the card. Going into a big YCS, big tournament, like, do not play this card. There's so many better options. This card's $50. This card's $50. I just don't understand. I think people just see pretty cards, see cards that are expensive, and they're like, oh, let me put this into my deck because it has to be good. And it's seen play before, but don't think about it like that. That's such a like a dumb way to think about the game. The game is so much more complex than that, and the game is constantly changing. So whenever a game changes like this, you have to change with it. Just because the cards that you loved were good at a time, they might not be good anymore. Think about how it impacts everything else. There's so much that goes into this game, and that's why I love this game so much, and I want to have discussions like this. So guys, tell me if I missed out on anything. Do you guys think I'm wrong? Do you guys think that these cards are actually good? I want to start a conversation with you guys. Let me know. I do think Fantasma and Infinite Impermanence are very lackluster right now. Should not be in the main deck unless with Fantasma, there's very like niche circumstances where if you're going second deck, going second board breaking cards such as Super Poly, Dark Ruler, No More, things like that, I think it does warrant playing this card. But other than that, I think these two cards are very overrated. They're just expensive, pretty cards that have seen play before. But right now, it's not their time. Their time is gonna come around. This game goes in a circle. So I'm not saying these cards are bad. These cards are just lackluster, a little overrated. Let me know what you guys think is overrated right now. What decks are overrated? What staples are overrated? And subscribe. Stay tuned for more.